middle- oh.
Sorry. Okay, go ahead.
Got it. I was born in Philadelphia, and in the middle of the summer, my parents, when I was 13, said we're moving to Florida. And I went from an old colonial style homes, type of thing, where town row houses, to Suntree. And it was a huge culture shock to me and my brothers. Not only that, but the temperature change and et cetera, but just the fact that it was all new to me. So I've been in Brevard County since '89. Went to high school here, went to college here, and met my wife here, who's probably the only born Floridian that I have ever met. She was born at Holmes, and going from there, started the appraisal business and been appraising now for about 20 years. I did 12 years underneath an appraiser that had an MAI. MAI is a member of the Appraisal Institute, which is basically a doctorate of appraisals. So anything that I had to learn from him, it was basically, I was getting a PhD in analysis on how to handle these situations. One of the biggest pet peeves I ever had with him is if I went to him and said, hey, help me out with this situation, and he would always say to me, what's the market telling you? I'm like, no, I just want to know what a specific adjustment is. And he's like, go find it out. But after trial and tribulations and steadily doing that, I became a better appraiser.
Hey, Bryan, really quick. Laura mentioned the audio is a little bit broken. Is anyone else having issues with the audio? Let's speak up now at the beginning. No? All right. Sorry, Laura, it's just you. Sorry. Okay. Everything's fine. Continue.
Then I left and went into the corporate world. I had an opportunity to work with an AMC. A lot of people, you understand that I think you can go back, you can do it now, but when the Dodd-Frank came out, you had actually banks and brokers couldn't talk to appraisers anymore. So you had to go through an AMC. And I wanted to learn that side of the business. So I left and went to the corporate world and learned that side of business. For 7 years, I worked with them, and I went along and helped produce products like the desktop appraisals that you probably have heard about, where appraiser doesn't even have to leave the comfort of his house. He just has to just sit down and do a desktop and the appraisal, use MLS photos, whatever. I also helped develop what's called I forget the technical name, but it was one of those lines of the realtor will actually inspect the property and take photos for the interior, and the appraiser could write up the appraisal about how, what the condition is, instead of just being like a drive-by desktop. It was more of a interior style, and where you could probably get more definitive answer of what the condition and sorry, lost for words here. More definitive value, because I could see what the interior was like. So they flew me around the country, and I talked to different banks, explained these to the banks what this product does. And a lot of times you can actually hear about it now, as they're all over the place, desktops, and so on. Then they asked me to go back out on my own. Well, not go out on my own, but start appraising again locally in Florida. And then I went about that. And after about a year, I realized, I always want to be my own business, own my own business. So I decided to start a business. Now, BS Appraisals is tongue in cheek. My mom cursed me with my initials for Bryan Seifert. So I figured I'd use that with the marketing tool type thing, BS Appraisals. And like Rose said, the motto would be, BS may be in the name, but it's not in the product. It's just bring humor to it. And I also, one thing I didn't realize was that I was explaining that to a client of mine, and he tried to search me up by BS Appraisals, and he couldn't find anything about me because there are so many things on the web stating BS Appraisals, with not my company name, just explaining how an appraisal that they had was bad. And I just thought that was funny that they can't get it from, that they can't find me in that, because now they're just looking at BS appraisals. But that's all about me. And I'm going to go over a few things. I didn't want to go technically into what an appraisal is, the difference between an appraisal, an FHA appraisal, a VA appraisal. I mean, because these are all things that are commonplace. I wanted to go more lines of items that would help you, help me, etc., and just make an easier process for the realtor and the appraiser and go from there. The first thing I wanted to go about is the importance of a CMA. The importance of the CMA is not only that for me, but it's to help you as the realtor define a value. So if I'm going to make up hypothetical things, let's just say that you come with a CMA. The buyer says, or the seller wants to say, I want to sell my house for $200,000. And you go into the market, you've read a CMA, and you show them like, hey, I'm looking at 190. And this is from sales in the market. This is what's going on. So this is where I'm at. We can list it for 200,000, but more than likely right now, this current market's at 190. So we're gonna have to work on just, then when you know where they are, and they know where the market is for that your property because it's CMA, then if you say I can list it for 200,000, but let them know that you're probably gonna have to negotiate because right now the market's at 190. Now I know markets change, and the appraisal is only as good as the date that the appraiser was out there to the property. So the date that appraiser showed up is when the value starts. That's my day, minute, time. Now, when you do a CMA, it may be a week ago, and you get an offer or whatever it is, but but it gives you an idea on how. Okay, right now it's at 190, and you want to sell for 200, and you inform the seller that you're probably going to have to negotiate. You're not going to get the exact value that you want during current market conditions for your property. And that way, it doesn't seem like it's a slap in the face when the appraiser comes out and the appraiser goes, hey, this is what I am seeing. This is, the value of your property is 195 or whatever it is. And then instead of that, the seller feeling, what happened? Why didn't it come in? That was a BS appraisal basically. And you can just be like, well, instead of that, you can actually negotiate now. They're prepared to negotiate. And it just helps it out in the long run, because as an appraiser, we don't want to kill deals. It's not in our nature to want to kill anything. It's more in the lines of we report what's going on in the market. What happens in the market yesterday. It's not what you can sell it for tomorrow. It's all the data that happened yesterday. So if we are in an increasing market that's going through the roof, well, the sales are going to be a lot lower than they are currently listed for. So if you have a contract that's at the current list price, all the sales are down here at an increasing market. So it's gonna be tough to get there. You're gonna have to wait for a sale to get above it, and then and so on. So if you're pushing the top end of the market, the appraisal probably is not going to come in. If it is, it's going to be, the appraiser is going to have to do a lot of explaining within the body of the appraisal, the addendum, etc. Now, that's pretty much the importance of a CMA. Because for me personally, if I go out to a property and I'm inspecting it, and I know that I get out there and because I'm an appraiser and been doing it for 20 years, I know that when I get out to that house, I don't know anything about it besides the year built, the condition of the property. I have not pulled any sales. I don't know anything because I've done it so long that the times that I do that pre-information stuff, it's kind of shot in the foot, because you walk inside and instead of being a single family house, is actually a duplex now. So all the data that I wasted for 2 hours is gone. I can't utilize that for the appraisal anymore. So I've always waited, let me inspect it, let me go about that, and then I'll go from there. Because you never know what the condition is inside. You don't know if something happened to it, that's a fire interior or whatever it is. And just, it just makes it a lot easier. And an appraiser, as what I was trying to say, talking a lot, not used to it. When I go to and I'm having difficulty on a property, and I can see that this is like the upper end of the market, it lets me know that when I'm like, okay, you're 1 in 200 and I'm at like 190, I'm going to ask you for your CMA, just because I want to see what you were thinking and what you utilize for your comparables. Because I do a great search. I mean, but I'm not, no appraiser is perfect. So I want to see where you came from and why you valued it the way you valued it, so I can see where your mindset was on that. And 9 times out of 10, it helps me. But then there's sometimes where it's like, okay, I don't know what they were thinking. I mean, this CMA is not worth the paper or the email that was sent to me. So it just helps me understand where you are, and I may miss something that I don't know what you considered valuable in that property. So then I could look at it and go, okay, now I understand where they're going for or what they're looking at when they come to that. That's pretty much the importance of a CMA in my book. Not only that help your buyer or your seller, but it also, cuts out all the, the appraiser's bad. That's a BS appraisal. That's just horrible. I can't believe they came in so low. And then not only be wasted the time of the seller, but it's because now they have, the deal's probably dead or whatever it is that you have to negotiate, and I didn't want to do it in the first place. Now, the next thing I want to do is, like, when you're on your CMA, is how to find your comparables. Now, I'm not worried about your adjustments, but for the find comparable properties, I always tell my wife, when you're looking for, because my wife's a realtor, when you're looking for comparable properties, you're looking for what a market participant would look for when they're going, if they're looking at your house and they go out into the market, what other houses would they look at? So yeah, when they look at this 1970 house that's been updated, well, what are other 1970 houses in that area selling for? I don't want to, if I'm looking at a 1970 house, I'm not going to be looking as a market participant. I'm not going to be looking at a 2020 built property, because they're not comparable at all. Quality construction, design aspects, everything. That's a market participant looking at that property is not going to go into that home. So as an appraiser, we start, like I always tell my wife, start wide. Like if it's in the middle of, I don't know, let's just say Northeast Palm Bay. So you got all Northeast Palm Bay. And what I always start off with is plus or minus 20% of the square footage. So you take the square footage that's on public records, plus or minus that, and that gives me the range. Now, it's probably going to give you a minimal, let's say 762, just round it, make it 800 plus or minus, or 700 plus or minus. So you have an idea of these are what an appraiser is going to look at. When I say 25%, because as an appraiser, I just want to know what's it. Appraisers have guidelines. Doesn't mean we can't break them. Within a mile, have to have with a pool, subject as a pool, all the other comparables did not have a pool. And these things are things that they say you have to have, plus or within no line adjustment. When I say line adjustment, if it's a pool that's sold for $100,000 and I put a $30,000 adjustment in there, that's above, it's 30%. But that's just saying, that's above. What that's saying is that I have to explain within the body of the appraisal why I extended these differences. So they don't really mean anything when it comes to, as an appraiser, I don't have to stay within a mile. I'm going to other like communities for that property. So my market participant is going to be going into Northeast Palm Bay. It doesn't mean they can't go to Northwest Palm Bay or Southeast Palm Bay or Southwest Palm Bay. I'm looking for like properties. But Northeast Palm Bay is a little bit different because they have the water, city water, city sewer. And I know it's going around other places as well. But that's more developed area considering. So if you have a house that has city water and city sewer, you want to find other comparable properties that have city water and city sewer, because the less variable differences between you and the comparables, the more accurate the value is. So when I say to my wife, I said, I want you to do I got a whiteboard here. Tell me if you guys can see the writing. If not, then I'll just explain it. But start big. Start big. Can you see that? Rose, can you see it?
Barely, but yes, I can see it.
Okay. All right. So start big with your search. That's the 25% difference between the GLA. And then from there, if it gives you 500 sales, which is not going to be, unheard of. But then, okay, let me narrow it down a little bit. Let me it's a 1970 property. Let me go 1950 to 1980 or whatever it is, 1960. Let's go 1960 to 1980. Well, then the box gets smaller. Now I have 100 properties. All right, so now it's still too big for an appraisal, but it's helping me get down to where I'm at. Now, okay, so now I'm plus or minus square footage. Now I'm at age, and it's slowly getting smaller. Now I want to say, okay, what is some defining factors of this home? Does it have a pool? Okay, has a pool. And I put a pool in there, and it goes down to one sale. All right. So I'm like,
that's a big jump.
Well, it's an analogy. That's what I'm trying to do.
I got you.
All right. So it goes down to one. So now I know in this huge market, when I started making it down, that there's one sale with a pool. That one's definitely going to go in my CMA. That one's in my appraisal. That's always going to be there no matter what, because that is the definition of my house, right now. I mean, now, it may not be a house that has, similar condition, et cetera, but that's when you can make an adjustment. Now,
so what about those other 100 houses? Do any of them apply?
Well, that's what I'm going to go at now. So now we come back and say, okay, then the defining factor was the pool, gave me 1. So now what else do I have? Okay, let me, maybe I can make my square footage of my house not 25%, but 10%. And that gives me 10 sales. So now I'm like, okay, so I have my one that has a pool similar to your build plus similar square footage as me. But then I have 10 other sales I can utilize in my CMA, and they're all within my neighborhood. They all have city water, city sewer. They're all plus or minus square footage. So in taking the whole market and
do those 10 have a pool?
No, these do not.
Okay.
Well, okay. One of them is, because that's the
okay, gotcha.
One of them is. So you have 9 other sales technically, besides the one with the pool. You have 9 others that are, and you can pick out of those 9 what best illustrates your house. And then when you do your CMA, then you can say, I have 9 sales that are, and of these 9 sales, which ones are similar to my condition, are closer to my house, are the most recent sales, and then utilize those in your CMA, because that'll give you the most accurate data for your CMA than anything else. Because then this will cut out the, I want to sell my house for $4 million, because everyone thinks their house is worth $1 million, or several $1 million. But it helps you understand how you're going to explain to the realtor, the seller, what their house is worth and what is realistically out there for you to have.
We got a question regarding this. Does it make a difference if it's an above ground pool? I think yes.
Yes. Above ground pool can be taken away. When you're doing an appraisal, you want to have an appraiser walks into the house. I don't care if it's clean. I don't care really anything about it. I'm looking at the features of that property that are staying there and cannot be removed. I mean, technically anything can be removed, but I'm looking at what a condition.
Can it be blown away by a hurricane?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, because you're gonna have those above ground pools that have a nice wood deck and everything. Well, the wood deck is built in, so that's staying there. I can value the deck, but the pool, I mean, that's one of those things about a selling feature and not really value. You can have a shed on the back of a property, but that shed does not bring value. Not all sheds, but I'm just saying it's a selling factor. It's not something that brings value. You could have fruit trees in front of the property. It's selling factor. It's not value. Value-oriented things are square footage, bathroom count, condition of the property, and location, location, location. I mean, because that's pretty much how everyone goes about it. Because if you have an oceanfront property, you're not going to look at a house on a river or acreage in I don't know, Mims, because that's comparing apples to oranges. Is not the same thing. So when it comes to selling factors, this is the next thing on the list I was trying to get to. When you have on a selling factor would be, and it has to be something in the market that an appraiser can quantify out, take the data from, and utilize it as a market participant is willing to spend extra on to have that item. Now, I always explain this as when someone's talking about when they're updating a home. When you're updating a home, unless it's your forever home, if you're gonna update your house, you wanna do basically just go outside your neighborhood real quick. I know there's listings, or just look online of other homes in the area, and you wanna see what the quality finish of all the homes around you are. Because the analogy I always give is that you love gold, all right? You don't want to put a solid gold faucet into your kitchen and expect that the value is going to go up because you have a solid gold faucet in there. The next market participant is going to come in there and go, that's just a faucet. Thank you for the gold, but I just wanted the faucet. So you don't care about how it got there. You just want a functional utility of it. When you have a 1970s built property and you say there's a new roof, there's flooring, windows, or whatever it is, there's deferred maintenance and there's updating. Deferred maintenance is items that would have to get fixed anyways, that yes, you're taking care of the property, but no, it may bring some value, but you're not getting dollar for dollar out of it because you would have to fix it anyways. It's a selling factor. You have an AC that's 20 years old and you're going to go sell that, you're going to sell it. Well, the next person coming in, especially if you're doing FHA and I test the AC and see if it's working and it's not working, you're going to have to fix it anyways. So it's one of those things when it's a selling factor because you still have to fix it anyways. Because the next market participant, like the roof was leaking. I had to fix it. There's a new roof, a selling factor. But does that increase value? No, because it was something you had to fix. When it comes to value for updating, it's flooring, kitchens, bathrooms.
Could you in a way categorize it by being more permanent and less permanent? Like the more permanent the structure, the more it contributes to the value, whereas a more temporary structure or addition would contribute to a selling point.
Yeah. I've come across a house not too long ago where they put in behind the house was a 20 by 30 square foot paver patio. So that's great. Paver patio, put it out there. But when you leave, you technically can take that because it's not concreted in. So there's a selling factor to that, but there's no value, true value to it as an appraiser. You can say, hey, this is a patio. Great, it's great selling factor. But because it's not embedded in the ground and it cannot move, it has no value as an appraiser. We can say
Tracy was saying the word is like convey. Like, does it convey? Would it be impossible to take it out? To take it to
I mean, this is a slippery slope because it's kind of one of the lines of I can rip out a brand new AC and take it with me. But the typical home, when you sell it, it's going to have it there. You know, you're going to have the
I do, because there's no water.
dishwasher, you're going to have the refrigerator, you're going to have the stove. Pretty much 90% of the time, those items are going to be there. So that's what an appraiser looks at. These things are going to be there.
Okay. We're starting to get questions in, so I just want to, the time is 10:37. Do we want to stop for Q&A at like 10:45? So like
Sure.
another 10 minutes?
Yeah, I have one more thing.
Yeah, go ahead. No, do your thing. I'm just keeping track of time here.
No worries. When it comes to a difficult property, I can always explain that the most important thing to do is the white elephant of the world. We call in appraisers, we look at cookie cutter homes that are built by a PUD, you know, like a Fiera Builders or Lennar or so on. These are the cookie cutter properties, because when I go in there, I know there's going to be something that's sold in there that's similar models, similar everything, and it's not going to be hard. The oddball ones, the white elephants of the world, that's where you have it's 1,000 square foot house with 4,000 square foot of enclosed porch. You know, that just doesn't make sense in the normal market out there. So when you get these tough properties, I implore you you can always hire an appraiser to do a pre-listing appraisal. So the appraiser can help you basically do your CMA for you, so you can understand what the value of that property is in an appraiser's mind. To give an example, I helped out, I got hired on by a realtor that had a tough property in Viera that was completely updated. I mean, they said this was going to be their forever home, and found out that he had to move back to Colorado. He couldn't stay here anymore. So they had to sell it. So they gutted the house, basically redid everything on the inside of the house and then added to it. And they're pushing they wanted to sell for $1 million. And they're trying to figure out what it's worth, because sales in that area were around $800,000. So the realtor hired me to look and just say, how much would this be? I told her, I said, it's going to be like $500, just because this is a white elephant of all white elephants to appraise. And once I valued it, I came in at a value of like $950, which is less than the $1 million they had. But it also helped her to say, when she had prospective buyers showing up and saying, there's no way you're going to get $950 out of it. And she goes, that's funny, because I have an appraisal that states that this is the value of the home. And then she goes, well, I can also forward it to you if you wanted a copy of this appraisal. And a lot of times the selling agent or the buyer's agent was like, they just don't want to pay that high. Well, that helped her out, weed out that person that was going to waste time while writing the contract, try to negotiate it down,
Right.
instead of just saying, okay, it's like going to a car dealership And the one they have a set price, and then the one that's negotiable. I'd rather go to the house that has a set price, that, the car dealership that says you can buy this car for, $10,000, than the one that I have to negotiate from 15 down to 10, because it makes it a lot easier. So when you have the copy appraisal to go, hey, this is, a $10,000 car, and I'm going to buy it for 10,000, then, and she came back to me and told me that she got a full price listing offer, and it's under contract. So it just cut out all the minutia of the world and just got her to that value. And that's one reason I'd say the importance of hiring, if you have a tough property, to get an appraiser to help you out along those lines. And
that's awesome information.
And then
I'm learning a lot right now.
And then that's pretty much my list of items.
Okay.
As an appraiser, helps us out is have a copy of a survey. Cuts the inspection time down. I mean, I don't mind. I have to pull tape in the house anyways, but when I have the survey, I can actually see the square footage. I can see the dimensions of the outside of the house. I can write all the information down off that. I can give it back to you, and I can go measure the property and make sure that, okay, if this wall is 10 feet 7 inches, I pull it up 10 feet 7. Okay, this one. I'm not actually really making sure I get everything right, because if I get 90% of it and there's a dark cavern of like spider webs that I don't want to walk down in, but 90% of the thing is fine, I can say that's just fine. That's why I'm gonna go rely on this survey that said that wall's 5 feet by 6 feet. I'm not going back in there. But so provide a survey. You can give the appraiser a CMA. Give them so they can see, because anyone can print up listings. Because a lot of times you can hand the appraiser all these listings. I just take them and I put them in my folder, and then I go about my business. I write my appraisal, and then if I'm having difficulty trying to figure out the value, I just take out all your things like, yes, I looked at it, this, whatever it was. I looked at this one that's in my list, of things, but I'm not using that. I mean, I'm just trying to see where you're coming from. But if you have a CMA, I can see how you did your adjustments, why you utilized what you utilized, the distance from your house to these things. But not only that, it helps me, but it helps you understand how to come about that value. And so it just also makes the appraiser think, oh, this person knows what they're doing. They provided me a CMA that's spot on, that supports it. It's going to be tough for, if anything, for me to go against that. Why didn't you utilize this sale? Well, I saw a meme, and the meme was how realtors see their homes compared to the
I've seen that one too.
To the comparables.
Yeah.
And it's a bodybuilding contest, and there's a really skinny guy in the middle, and that's the subject. And then on the outside of the next to him, the other contestants on there are all buff, jack dudes, and that's the comparables that they're utilizing to sell the subject. So I always think about that when
Don't you sometimes wish you could like project images from your brain, be like, this is what I'm talking about?
Yes. Yes.
All right, we got the questions rolling in, Bryan. I think we should start addressing these questions because I want to make sure we have time. Are we good? Are we ready for Q&A?
We get some neon green caffeine, maybe. Then yes.
Cheers. Okay. So I'm going from top to bottom. So if you have questions, please post them now in the chat, and I will get to them eventually. Okay. So Sharon Roy asked, what about well water versus city water? I think in relation to value.
It's the cost. First off, it's the cost. Because when a prospective buyer is going to go into the property, when the city waters to your house, it's chlorinated. I mean, but not only that, I mean, not chlorinated, but it's clean water. You don't have to pay for the maintenance to deal with the the salt, to take all the hard water out. If you want to deal with that, that's fine. But that hard water corrodes pipes. I mean, in the long run, it's better to have city water than be on well. That's a prospective buyer going into a house is going to look at, well, me, educated buyer is going to go into a property and say, okay, here's the future cost of these items. That am I willing to pay for it? And any realtor can do it too. Is do a study, paired sales analysis. Paired sales analysis is you take one subject that has a well water and then
turn it a little bit. The glare is getting.
That's fine.
There we go. Yeah.
With well water, and then one that has city water, or city with the C, Brian. But and what you want to do is you want to figure out, okay, paired sales is you want to find two properties that sold right around the same time, that the only difference is that one item, the one difference. It could be a pool, etc. And what the sales price is. So let's say this is city water, it was 205, and this one sold for 200, or vice versa, 205, city water for septic. Then I can see that the market is, a market participant's willing to spend an extra $5,000 to live on city water than on well. So that's value that's already there. But yeah, I mean, with anything when it comes to, an improvement, is that it's the cost because if you're okay with well water, then you're going to find well water properties. But as an appraiser, we have to go out and find the data. We just can't make grab from air adjustments and
so would that value on well water versus city just basically be based off of the area, the comps?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
What about value in a lake or a pond?
Are we talking like a retention pond?
If there's one on the property.
Well, that's a tough one. I look at retention ponds or even canals as a selling factor than value, because a retention pond can go dry. I mean, it gets really, really low. My parents live on a house, and the other importance is get a local appraiser. If somebody knows this area, because my parents had an appraiser come from Orlando, come and appraise their house, and they live in Suntree, and they have a house that's on a lake that in my 30-something years in Florida has never gone dry. It's 30-something feet deep, and the appraiser from Orlando said it was a retention pond, no value. And I was like, that guy's smoking. I mean, that makes no sense at all. You can't say that house does not have the selling, the appeal of that is the water frontage that never goes dry, that has huge not tarpon, but big old fish in there.
Right.
That's not a selling factor.
So the value comes in the permanence of that body of water.
Yeah, or even a preserve or whatever.
Okay.
Because, I lived on a lake, and I currently live on a preserve now, and I like the preserve because if someone's back there, I know they're not supposed to be back there. On a lake, they can be rowing by in canoe.
Yeah.
And then community can all look in because there's nothing blocking it. So growing up, I was walking around in my underwear. Everyone in my whole neighborhood.
All right, keep it PG, Brian. All right, we got another question. So does your appraisal cover requirements from the lender?
Yes, all appraisals do. Because if they don't, we get a revision request stating, hey, can you address this issue? Or and 90% of the time for me, it is, hey, you've got to check a box. I'm like, oh, okay, check a box. And the box would be like if it's city water or I don't know, well septic. I wrote in there city of Melbourne water, but I didn't check the box, type thing. It's the dot the I's and cross the T's.
Cross the T's, yeah. All right, we're off of water. Now we're on to windows. Is there a value between updating
Yes, impact
Updating
windows.
regular window, but upgrading to impact. Okay, I think that was, I'm sorry. Yeah, so I guess upgrading from regular windows to upgrading to impact.
Now, I have not come across that personally where I have the market data support it, but I would say yes, because the impact resistant windows, you don't have to worry about hurricane shutters anymore. So not only that, but you're increasing the security of the property.
And it's
along
a
with-
permanent structure.
Yeah, it's not going anywhere.
And expensive. And it's expensive.
Yeah, very expensive. Very expensive.
Yes. All right. Lisa's asked, do you have a standard for value for certain items that would help us better on a CMA? As an example, how do you adjust the value for a 1,200 square foot detached RV garage when there are no others in the area?
All right. Well,
So like, is there a standard value for certain items like that example?
well,
that would
I can
help
say
better in a
this.
CMA? Yeah.
I can say this is that as a realtor, you're not held up by the standards of USPAP like an appraiser is. So as an appraiser, I would have to market extract that particular item and figure out what that adjustment would be. There's no requirements holding back realtors from putting whatever they want. So, but you have to be within reason, all right? When I'm chuckle like that is because you're not gonna say that detached RV garage is $50,000, you know, or 100 or $1 million. I don't know what it is, but it has to be within. If I was personally trying to figure out the value of that particular item, I would go about finding other garages in that area that sold, detached garages, and then say, what did they sell for compared to other homes in the area? But to give a rough guesstimate, I mean, you're talking like, let's say Palm Bay. I use Palm Bay a lot because it's easy to kind of value it. You know, you can get a lot of sales, so a lot of data is out there. So you can actually figure out a difference between a 2-car garage to a 1-car garage, that it's right around $4,700 for the difference between the two, which you can round up to $5,000. So you have a 1-car garage compared to 2-car, you can do plus or minus $5,000 just so you can see where it's at. Now, the adjustments change when you go into different tiers of quality, even sale prices. So when you're in Lansing Island, you're not going to do a garage adjustment of $5,000 because Lansing Island is a multi-million-dollar property that's located on a deed restricted gated island. So the value of that, even the materials to put that garage in, is going to be so much more cost wise, and a person's willing to pay that to be able to live in that item. So a bathroom in Palm Bay, let's just make up a number, $2,500 for a full bath, from full to a half bath or whatever. But that same bathroom in a $1 million property is probably going to be $10,000 to $15,000 just for the difference, just because the quality is and the cost of that. Apologize, I went on a tangent, but I was trying to cover all the
I think you very thoroughly answered the question. All right, so next question.
Yes, I could.
Can the pre-appraisal be used for the buyer in that case?
If it's a cash deal, yes.
Okay.
Because an appraiser is going to write on the appraisal that this is for market valuations only, you know, that determine the market value of the property. But that's not to say that if you take that and there's a cash buyer saying, hey, I'm willing to spend this much money on it, can I see that appraisal? And the guy goes, yeah, see, here's the appraisal, this and that. But any prudent buyer would want their own appraisal because I don't know who you hired. I mean, I don't know how you came about that. I don't know if you even wrote it. You know, you as a broker, you could have wrote that thing. But when it comes to anything that's requires federal lending, you know, money from the government or banking system, they require the appraisal to be in their name, the bank's name. So yeah, you can hold it and say, I have an appraisal, but the banks will say, I don't care, I want it in my name.
Okay, so really for cash, it can be used, but
It can, yeah.
yeah. So I think we know the answer, but who pays for the pre-appraisal? I would say,
Whoever wants to pay me. I mean,
I would say the seller or
whoever
the
pays
listing
me
agent.
or appraise that person they're their client. They're that person's client. So as the realtor is the one that paid me for the one that I did the pre-appraisal for.
Because that realtor saw the value that it was going to bring for negotiations.
Well, I did
Right.
this the first time she's ever done it.
Right.
I hired an appraiser to do the pre-appraisal. So when she got the pre-appraisal, she was like, oh my gosh, this is a lifesaver. I mean, this saved me from dealing with all that and not knowing, like, is it the right value? You know?
Right, right.
When she had that appraisal, she was like, I know it's worth this. We can go off this aspect, and I don't have to worry about or second guess who I am.
Yeah. So just to answer the question, because there's no contract yet or any buyer on the table, it would be either the seller paying for it or you as the listing agent.
Yeah, or whoever wanted it. I mean, you can, anyone.
You can have the aunt, sister's best friend pay for it.
Yes,
Who cares?
yes. It's whoever wants to be my client at that time.
Yes.
It doesn't matter.
Oh my goodness, we have so many questions. Let's try rolling through these a little bit more quickly because I don't want to miss out on any questions, and we are approaching rapidly to 11 a.m. So, all right, the next one is, do you consider this, oh wait, I think I skipped one before. Okay, in this market, how far back in time do you go for sold comps in this market?
That diagram I showed you about the big circle, I go 1 year.
1 year.
If I go 1 year and I showed me I had one sale, well, like a lender said, it's just a requirement.
You can expand
I expand it to find my sales information that I need to hone in on that value. So if it's too wide, like I get 600 sales, you can start narrowing it down. If you get even that circle when it had 9 sales, then cut it back to 6 months. And then
and then you have more specific comps. That makes sense. So based on your reports that you've been getting you've been doing recently, do you consider this current market appreciating, stable, or decreasing?
Overall, it's increasing.
Interesting.
But it's not at this level that it was before. Anybody can pull market data and you can actually see that it's increasing even slightly. But there's certain areas like Barefoot Bay, manufactured communities, you actually can see that it's coming down. And then, I mean, there was a time when the Fed raised the rates and you could actually see a dip. And then it kind of came up a little bit, but it's kind of correcting. So where it's at right now, I don't know. It's stable. That's all I can say is for that. But
like in between stable and increasing.
Yeah, it's
right in between.
I mean, I did another house in Vieira where it was under contract and builder contract for 700,000, and they wanted the current valuation for today's value. Now it took like 14 months for them to get to this standard where I could walk in, and I came in at like 860,000. So there's entrepreneurial profit with that builder building it for $700,000 still there, and yes, slightly discounted, but even the discounted rate for buying from a builder, because a builder is not going to be true market value. The definition of market value is buyer wants to sell high, buyer wants to buy low, seller wants to sell high, you negotiate to the price. That's the definition of market value. The builder sets the price. There's really no negotiation from that point. But they want to make their line of like 20% profit. So after they get their profit, they really don't care. But they're slowly adjusted up when it comes to costs, etc. But
I gotcha. All right, we got to move on. Okay, how much? I'm sorry to cut you off, Bryan. I love these super detailed answers. We just don't have the time. Okay, how much difference in square footage would you need before you adjust the value? I think I can kind of speak into that. It would just be based off of the percentage that you wanted to pull for those comps.
No.
No? Okay, then I know nothing. I learned nothing. Tell me.
When your comparable sales that you maybe I misunderstood you. That the circle, when it breaks down, you have let's just say 4 sales. Well, you take the square footage divided by the sale price divided by the square footage, and that gives you a price per square foot. Add all those up and divide it by that number, and then divide that again by 3. Because I always use 1/3. I've always been trained by the doctor who trained me, is that 1/3 value is what it basically works out to be. So I utilize my price per square foot adjustments usually depending on the property at home. I utilize the data that I have for that particular market segment, the homes from my circle that I brought down, and said, okay, now that's $65 a square, and that's the number I utilize throughout the grid for the GLA adjustment. Now, plus or minus 100 square feet, plus or minus from the subject, there's no adjustment because no one paying. I have 3 extra square feet in my bathroom. Oh, let me give you $15,000 for that 3 extra square feet. No, there's no data. There's no data in the world that can define that down. There's no pencil enough to get that square footage adjustment out.
So, referencing from the question above, let me go back. So when we answer the do you consider this market appreciating, stable, or decreasing? The follow-up question, is it possible to get a ballpark adjustment list? Example, pool versus no pool, same house, completely renovated versus one that's not, etc. You're shaking your head like the answer is no.
Because it's
always a case-by-case basis, isn't it?
Well, yes and no. I mean, because I don't know what that person's selling. If they're selling all homes in Palm Bay, well, you could probably just grab that data anyways. But when you go into, the tier list is just different. When you're going to like Vieira Homes, Suntree Homes, West Melbourne Homes, Beachside Homes, each market's slightly different, and the adjustment's going to be slight. I mean,
that makes sense.
It's an appraiser can get in trouble just for saying, okay, all baths are $1,500 for a half bath, because have a list of all the differences of all garage adjustments are $5,000. That's not extracted. That's a grab from air adjustment. That means nothing. That means nothing to if I get called in front of the board and said, hey, how'd you get this in adjustment? And I just said, I don't know. That guy told me to put $5,000 for the difference. It doesn't work. But it's just going to take a little bit of work on their end just to see what they can, be within reason. I mean, you can put whatever you want. Like I was trying to say earlier, you can put whatever you want as an adjustment. No one's going to say, oh my gosh, you put $40,000 for a solar panel or whatever it is,
So do you feel like, it says we, but realtors, do you feel like realtors could be penalized with an out-of-state appraiser? Can it be prevented? What can be done? Any advice?
Out of state, as long as they're
Out of city.
No, it says out of state on the question.
All right.
They wouldn't be licensed here.
As an appraiser, I take a state test and I took a national test. So my national test, I can pretty much go anywhere that's willing to accept the Florida rules and regulations that when I pass my Florida test. But if I go to a different state, I have to take the laws and regulations test for that area. But yes, you'll be penalized. An appraiser can go anywhere you want. And
she meant out of county. She meant out of county.
Well, yeah, because I can appraise Florida. Do you think if I go down to Key West, I'm going to be as good as a Key West appraiser? You think if I go to Pensacola?
You don't know jack about nothing in Key West.
But if I go to Pensacola, do you think I'm going to be a great Pensacola appraiser?
You know nothing about Pensacola.
It's waterfront. Okay, but I have no idea about that market. When I worked for the national company, they used to fly me to like different areas that they had trouble learning that market. And I would pay realtors to allow me access to their MLS systems and in that area, so I could go learn that market. And then I would have to learn how to extract my adjustments. I would have to learn how to do all these different particular things to make a credible appraisal. And in my body of my appraisal, I could have to state that I am from Broward County, but here's all the steps I need to be credible with that area. Are you trying to mute me?
I'm trying to unmute me. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. Let's see. For FHA appraisals, do you also prefer having a copy of the WDO report if we have one?
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay. Ruth Murphy, is it common for a listing agent to request a second appraisal if the first one comes in low? Should they use a different appraiser?
Well, I'm probably the youngest appraiser you'll meet.
Probably.
When I first started, I was 24, and the median age of all appraisers was like 50. And I think the last statistic I saw was when I sat for my my classes, that I think it was over like 15,000 new realtors, and 4 appraisers sat for the exam and only 2 passed. So there's 15,000 new realtors, but there's only 2 new appraisers as of 2022 the whole year. I went on somewhere. What was the question again?
Is it common for a listing agent to request a second appraisal if the first one comes in too low? And at that time, should they use a different appraiser?
Well, I remember why I went on my tangent, because a lot of appraisers, you can provide them whatever they want, and they're like, nope, that's my value. I did the work. Nothing's going to change my mind. You know, I searched the market.
I think this is a question that comes up a lot.
Yeah.
We see this a lot with a lot of agents. They feel like, you know, they get an appraisal in, it comes from a guy from Orlando. I hear it all the time from my realtors. Oh my gosh, this appraiser came in, he's from Orlando, he doesn't know the area, blah, 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 blah. Of course, it holds merit, right?
Yeah, you can request a local appraiser. Now, would that mean that you'll get one? I don't know. But
so how do you do that, Brian? Do you say to your mortgage lender, hey, Christine Danielson, I want a local appraiser only for something like this?
You can say that. And because these AMCs, they don't care about where you're located. A lot of them, especially the large ones, they don't care where you're located. They just want the lowest fee, so they have a higher return end on their end. Because they may say $750 for the appraisal to the bank, but they're bidding it out to all the appraisers in that area. Whoever comes in the lowest, you got it.
I also heard the other day when we did our fraud class, the credit hour class at Broken Barrel, I heard Christine Danielson tell you we have a preferred vendor list for appraisal.
That's brokers. Because nowadays brokerages can choose their appraisers. You can have, I like Bryan from BS Appraisals. He's knowledgeable, whatever. I want to make sure that I can get him work or whatever it is. They can do that, but it comes down to that brokerage firm and whoever's mortgaging that money. But a lot of times it all depends on. You can have preferred all you want, but it doesn't mean I'm going to get all the work. It's a list, but there's nothing holding it back from one particular brokerage or mortgage firm to say, hey, Brian's our appraiser. But I'm an independent third party. I don't care how much money they pay me or whoever my client or whatever it is.
So let me ask you this, just so there is more value in, let's say, using a local mortgage company versus using, I mean, and not to downplay anybody if you're using a bigger lender or it's not that. So let's say you are using a local, this person or that person. We all know the names that we're all running across our minds right now. Yeah. There's more value. There's more, let's put it this way. It seems like there's more control.
Yes. And not that, because everything's local here, they'll have a better understanding of that market. You may get a lower rate, or the developer wants you to use Bank of America so you can get a discount. Then whatever helps you out, do that. But overall, it's better to have a local mortgage lender, and it's better to have local appraisers.
Okay, I'm going to step out so Rosie can get back.
Thanks, Teresa. All right, so just I know we're 10 minutes over class already. If
Yeah.
anyone has any
I
more
can talk all
you're
day. Let's
obviously
go.
welcome to go. But we are gonna stay on here and answer these questions. Please stay on here with us if you are interested in learning more, because Bryan's a font of information. He's doing amazing. Also, before anyone else jumps off, just quickly raise a hands in the chat, whatever, if you would be interested in Bryan teaching a VA appraisal class. Getting a little more specific. I see Brenda shaking her head yes. I see a lot of yeses. Good. So I'm gonna get with Bryan after this and we are gonna get that going on. Also, as far as Bryan's information and his fees and everything, I'm gonna have him send you guys an email with all of his information and his fee sheet and everything that he wants to give you so you can become his new clients, because I mean, he's amazing. Why wouldn't you be? All right, so now back to the questions. What upgrades would you say are worth the money for sellers that would affect the appraisal, like the value, other than roof, electrical, plumbing? Like all, you know, those.
Flooring, kitchens, bathrooms.
Yeah, really try. I think it's, in my mind at least, it's like the more permanent the structure of the home, the higher it's gonna contribute to the value.
Now, paint, you can paint every room black all you want. I could care less.
Right. Okay.
But as a selling feature, it's
Mhm.
gonna be really hard to sell a house that everything's blacked out.
It depends on the room.
Well,
Sometimes
it's true.
those
But you'll
black
find the
rooms are
one
really good.
niche person that's, you know, gothic
Yes. Yeah.
or whatever it is.
So, we got a question from Dean. How about a Generac type full house generator and fuel tank?
Oh yeah, definitely. That's a permanent feature those things are awesome. That they're very hard to come by when it comes on a house. I think I've appraised a few of those, majority of Lansing Island. And then there's a subdivision, I think it's called the Willows. It's off Lake Washington back there where they have a whole house generator that if everything goes down, this thing pumps on and it's like what's that movie? Christmas
I'm
Vacation.
confused about this one, Bryan, honestly, because to me, of the person who knows nothing, I would think that a generator is not something permanent that you can take
That's
it.
what he'd explained. Because what he explained
Oh,
is
that specific one is
in.
like a permanent kind.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's built in.
Nothing. That's just like what I was saying. Okay.
Yeah,
All right.
because
So
they can just roll up that you buy from Lowe's or whatever. That's
okay.
property. For me, that's like
Right.
that doesn't belong here.
Okay. If it's got wheels, it's not part of the value.
Yeah. That's when you do a manufactured home or a mobile home. They want us to make sure there's no wheels on it. They want to make sure that
Oh my
it
God.
can't be like taken away after they loan property, you know. So at the appraiser, we're getting underneath. There's like, yeah, there's no wheels, there's no trucks.
We're good, guys. We're good.
That's a permanent structure now.
Sorry, I didn't mean to yell. I know all of you have your volume turned up all the way. My bad. Okay, so how sorry, looking at the wrong one. Do solar panels contribute to value? And if so, how do you determine that value?
That's a very tough question.
Oh boy, here we go. He's picking up the whiteboard again. Yeah.
Because this is when you get something along these lines, I've come across a lot of these homes and my market data is basically showing that it is more of a selling factor than actually increases value. You'll probably sell that house over somebody else that does not have solar, but is there a true market value from it? There's certain homes that you will see it, but there's other homes where it's like other areas that's just like there's no value there. But to find value for solar panels on a property, it's like I said, the paired sales analysis. This one has solar. That's the subject.
Oh, yes, it does.
You find sales out there, and what you want to do is, can you see that? Oh, there we go. You want to find one sale that had solar and one that did not. All right. And the difference in that price would be that way. Now, that's not to say that there's a value from the improvements alone. Like just putting a permanent structure on the property, you make 30,000 onto your house. You may get $5,000 just from the fact that you put it onto your house, solar panels. But it's not like you're going to get the total, just like from anything, the value going to be there. It's not going to diminish the value, but it's not going to, you're not going to get 50%, because there's nothing you're going to put on your house that increases the value the same, more than what it costs to put it in. So if you put $100,000 pool in, your value is not going to go up 120,000. It's not going to go up, it's going to come up to a percentage, which is pretty much around 30 to 40% cost in that market. Yeah, it depends on each market though, but that's what you will see. Yeah, it's tough to say, but a lot of times, like these new homes in Viera, on the resale end of it, you'll see a house that has solar compared to a house that did not have solar. They sell for basically about the same price. There's really no difference in value. The cost of putting the solar in was more, but on the resale aspect of it, you're not seeing it. So it's really tough. It's just going out there and looking what, because it also has to go along the lines of when you have a house, but like the whole gold faucet thing I said earlier, if no other home in this area that's 1,000 square feet has solar panels and you put $50,000 worth of solar panels on it, that's the gold faucet, because no other person is going to have that, the solar panel or the gold faucet. I kind of went around about, but that's one of those tough questions to answer.
All right. So now, what if a house has no stove? And I did ask a follow-up question, Linda. Do you mean that the seller took it when they moved, or there's no stove/oven hookups at all? I feel like that makes a difference.
I'm going to go on the aspect that it was taking, like they moved.
Okay, I'm going to assume that as well, but I had to ask. I feel like it would affect the answer.
I mean, it would. Because you have to put the cost to construct, put it in. I mean, that's the difference between a turnkey house, which is everything's done, you just move in, and a house that you're gonna have to go put stuff into the house. You're willing to pay the difference of convenience instead of having to pay for someone to do it and getting more value out of it, or just moving into a house that's all done. No, I mean, because that's something you can go get. That's like go to Appliance Direct and you can just go get a stove for $300. I mean, but if you're lending on a house that's $5,000, that $300 means a lot. But when you're talking about a house that's $300,000 and you got a stove, a person buying that house is not going to go, "Oh man, no, I can't pay."
You'd be
extra,
surprised.
I can't pay extra $800 for that stove. I mean, but it's not going to kill a deal as an appraiser.
If you're doing a VA appraisal, do you need a stove?
I don't know. I'm not VA certified.
Oh.
I'm trying to get VA certified, but the people that are on those lists die before they give it up, and they have certain VA appraisers for certain areas. And I can't do VA here. I'm trying to get Indian River County because that's the only area that has a vacancy. And for me to be able to become a VA appraiser in that area, I mean, my application.
There's like a list with slots and everything.
Yeah. So you have to have a certain amount of years. You have to have a certain amount of experience. You have to have a certain amount of education to get on the VA panel. And you have to provide them 3 years worth of major clients that you work with. And they can call up that client, and because it's federal government and the way the VA works, they'll call up that client and request all of the appraisals from that I did for them. And they'll review that to make sure that I was not erroneous or whatever, that they'll get a quality appraisal out of them.
So there's a question that I think there was like a misunderstanding on some end, because it says, I'm surprised a new roof does not add value, especially in today's Florida homeowners insurance climate. A new roof does add value though.
Yeah, but
yeah,
it's a selling factor because it had to be done anyways.
Okay,
It had to be done. So if the roof wasn't done, you raise the value. If you look at any appraisal, I do this analogy, it's about the quality, the condition adjustment of the condition of a property. There's C1, which is brand new construction, never lived in. If you have a new house, that's C1. Now, and then there's C2, C3, C4, C5, C6. C6 means it's ground. Demolish it, it's not even there anymore. C5 means it's barely, very, barely livable. I mean, it can be fixed. C4 means there's deferred maintenance that needs to be fixed. C3 means, yeah, it's been taken care of. C2 means it's been well taken care of. Now, when I talk about age, there's like how I determine how a property is, the difference with condition adjustment, whether or not one property requires one does not, is that we'll just say it's a 10-year-old house, 10 years old, okay? 0, 10. If you fix things that break on a property and like the windows broke, you replace the roof, all these items, you have an effective age of that property is 5 years. Now, this is very rudimentary, but I'm just trying to explain it. But if you don't fix things like the roof, etc., and so on, well, the effective age goes up to 10. Now, 10 just means you just didn't take it, you built it and you lived in it, things broke, window broke, there's a leak in the roof, I didn't care, I'm just living in it and nothing's gonna happen to it. The effective age of that property goes up. Now, the more improvements you get to it, the lower the effective age goes. You'll never be a 0 or a C1, but you'll get closer to that. So when I'm looking at other homes as comparables, I can say, okay, you got a new roof, okay, my effective age is a 4 compared to other properties out there that are, other properties that are 10 years old, and this one does not have a roof. So their effective age is up here. So yes, I can make an adjustment to this comparable for the roof being on that property. The new roof on that because they're taking care of it, and this one did not. Yeah, it's the gray area of appraisals.
okay, so did I understand, this was a question, next question. Did I understand you to say, we just answered that. We answered, Karen, I think we answered the question about solar panels. I don't know if you're still in here, but I think, yes, you are. Okay. So I think we got solar panels addressed. If your question did not get answered, please let me know. Okay, yes, Ken, we want to compare apples with apples. Okay, Muriel. We got that one right. Do you do commercial appraisals?
I did commercial when I first started off, but I did not enjoy it. When I first started off, I was a starving newlywed, and commercial work took me about a month to complete one commercial appraisal, and it was on, I got paid when the company got paid. So
what about now though? Do you do them now?
No, I don't do it now. No.
Okay. So
I know people that do. I mean, I can send you, the guy who trained me. So if you like me, he's better at commercial.
Ryan's good that way, like if he can't do something, he's not just gonna try to hang on to you and be like, oh, but I can make it work this way or this way. No, he'll be like, hey, I'm unable to do this for you, but I have the greatest contact in the biz. Let me get you connected with them. It's cool like that.
The only thing I don't have is if you have furniture or artwork. I'm not that appraiser. I don't know anyone like that. So I can't help you on that.
Yes, you do. You know McKaylee.
Well, the artwork. Does McKaylee appraise artwork?
She doesn't. But she'll buy it from you for her
Okay. I'm saying, but if I have this antique Persian rug, don't call me.
We don't know.
I don't know a person you can talk to about a Persian rug.
All right. So Karen says, I write on the contract on special clause paragraph on page 12, appraisal to be done by a licensed appraiser in Brevard County whose main office is located in Brevard County. That way it must be followed since it's on the contract. I think that's a great suggestion.
You don't want licensed though. certified.
Certified.
The license could be the trainee of the certified. You want a certified appraiser that writing it, because there's trainees out there. You want a certified appraiser because not my guy or my crony that I have underneath me that just started 3 weeks ago.
All right, so doesn't an appraisal stay attached to the property for 6 months? So you have to wait another 6 months to do another one?
Yeah, I mean, but it's one of those things that if you do significant changes in the property, well, then the house is different. You put a pool in, well, now I refinance my property because that appraisal is no good because it doesn't have a pool. You don't want to, but technically, yes. I mean, it's good for 1 year, honestly. But if the market's increasing or decreasing or whatever it is, the lender's gonna say, I want one that was today. You know, what's the market doing today? But technically, yeah, appraisal is good for 1 year.
Okay, so I think this might be our last question. So if the solar panel is leased, is it
No
considered a selling factor?
No value. For an
But is
appraiser,
it considered a selling factor?
selling factor, yeah, there's solar, but
Okay,
because it's attached, but doesn't mean that they can't take it away because they didn't pay. You know, because it's leased, it's not owned.
all right, so yes, I think that's it. Karen, I was just typing back to you. He did address that. There is no adjustment list because then he would be held accountable. Like he can't stand in front of the board and say that could be applied to anything. So Brian's sheet, as far as fees and his price sheet and everything like that, I think he will send everything to you today or tomorrow. Yes, I'm gonna give you the email list, Brian.
I'll try.
Yay! It'll be this week. Regardless, it'll be this week. So we did, just so you know, this feedback before we leave. One of the agents in this class said this is the most comprehensive appraisal class they've ever taken. Thank you so much. So you did a wonderful job, Brian. I cannot thank you enough for staying all this extra time, and everyone in here, thank you for staying. I know you wanted your questions addressed. I hope they were. If not, you're going to have Brian's contact info. You can call the guy, email him anytime and ask him your specific questions. Thank you again. And next week, don't forget, this week, if you haven't registered for the adult Easter basket giveaway, do so before I announce the winner on Friday. Next week, we have, what's next week? I don't even know the date next week. Is that contracts and disclosures at the 12th? Yeah, I think the 12th is next week. That's crazy. Okay. Goodbye, everybody. Have a wonderful rest of your day.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye.